How's it going, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for joining me finally after the holiday break, and I just kind of had to take a break, and I was hoping to have a co-host, but something just did not work out, so hopefully I can find a co-host at some point, but I guess I will be going solo for now. If you are interested in being a co-host on this show, you can shoot me an email, eric@thatswrestling.com. Also, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything like that, you can send me an email at the same place, eric@thatswrestling.com. I do have one mailbag that I'll be reading later in the show, but tonight we are going to be talking about AEW Dynamite. And then my plans are tomorrow I will have night 1 of New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 14. Then on Thursday we will have AEW Dynamite for what is going to be tomorrow. So that'll be on Thursday for the January 8th episode. And then on Friday I will have Wrestle Kingdom Night 2. So should have 4 shows in the next 4 days, and then hopefully we can get in here on a good routine and get back to it now that the holidays are over and I'm not feeling like crap and I'm not off work and feeling lazy. So hopefully we'll get this all back to normal. And like I said, if you're interested in co-hosting with me, you can either be for AEW or for just New Japan or both of them, or just as a fill-in if nobody's around, anything. Just shoot me an email and we can discuss on that. So let's get into the show. It is AEW Dynamite for January 1st, 2020. Starting off the brand new year, they are resetting the records for the year. So it looks like they're going to be doing a yearly reset of the win-loss records. I thought they would do... I'm not a huge fan of them doing it at the change of the calendar year. I figured the better time to do it would be when they have whatever they're going to have as their big annual show. So basically everything would build to that big annual show. You have all the blow-off matches at that show, and then you reset the records. Like, I figured All Out would probably be their yearly big show, or it could be Double or Nothing. I'm not sure what they're going to have as their big show, but it would make sense for it to be either Double or Nothing or All Out. Call that your big show, have all the blow-off matches there, and then reset the records then, instead of doing it calendar year, because it seems like we're completely in midstream at the moment, and every year it's going to feel like we're in midstream of all these storylines, especially if they're going to be doing the quarterly pay-per-views. We have a pay-per-view in November, and then they don't have one until February. So it would make more sense to adjust the records after the pay-per-view in November than doing it in between the 2 pay-per-views, the one in November and then the one in February. So I guess we will see, but if they just stick to this yearly and are consistent, then I guess we will just have to see how it goes. But I think they're hamstringing themselves a little bit on doing this. So the theme of this episode was, is the elite still elite? And this episode starts off with a video package of the elite asking if they're still elite, given how they've been performing in AEW. They've taken quite a few losses. Kenny Omega had a really rough start as far as what people were expecting to see from Kenny Omega when AEW started, and that was the video package right at the beginning, kind of a nice sum up. And then we had JR, Excalibur, and Taz on commentary. Tony Schiavone was off doing other announcing duties elsewhere. I'm assuming football, because it was New Year's Day, and there's a lot of college football on New Year's Day, so I'm guessing he was out doing that. This commentary team is great. I mean, Taz and JR are really natural together. I mean, they've obviously worked together going back, 20 years almost at this point. And I thought this was a very good commentary team. Nothing against Tony. If they need to bring in Taz just to do like pay-per-views or whatever, because Tony's probably going to be on other assignments for most of those weekends because he likes to do, college sports and whatnot. So that is perfectly fine. If they bring in Taz for those types of things, or when Tony can't make it, he is a perfectly suitable replacement because he is very invested into the product. He knows the product, and he's been keeping up with it. So he provided plenty of good insights this evening. So I was very happy to see Taz on the Dynamite episode and not just announcing on Dark. So out of the gate, the commentary announced tonight's matches, and then we go into our first match, which was Cody versus Darby Allin. Allin has a very cool video package of him skateboarding with like a half Cody mask. I really dig how they've kind of given Darby Allin his own like individual unique video packages going into his matches. You know, he had the one, I believe it was before the Moxley match that he, had the crowd surfing gimmick where he is in a body bag and they crowd surfed out. I'm pretty sure it was for the Moxley match that he had. And then Cody comes out and he is accompanied by Arn Anderson. It is basically announced that Arn Anderson has become kind of like Cody's and the Nightmare family in general's kind of manager / coach type of deal. So I guess we'll see how this plays out because there was no promo about this and I haven't really seen anything. It could have been on some other piece of ancillary content, which of course Cody says is just shoulder content, but we all know that it's actually important content and I just haven't seen it or just don't remember seeing it. Starts off with some decent chain wrestling between the two of them. Darby starts to target Cody's shoulder, and Cody starts to target Darby's leg. So we have some good old school wrestling here, isolating a body part, working over a body part, and hoping this kind of plays out into the end of the match or something like that. Darby ends up removing a turnbuckle pad, gets a rain of boos, and apparently now the Os cutter that Cody uses is now called the Cody cutter, at least for him. Cody hits a reverse superplex on Allin. He takes a huge bump. Darby hits a avalanche code red. Cody landed way high on his neck. It looked like that was pretty bad. Allin hits the flip over stunner that he likes to do. Does a coffin drop onto Cody out on the apron. Very similar to their match at Fight for the Fallen, which I believe was actually in the same exact building as this particular... Was it Fight for the Fallen or was it Fyter Fest? I'm not sure which one. I thought it was this one. No. Darby was in a tag match at Fight for the Fallen. So at Fyter Fest, Darby did the coffin drop to the apron, but Cody had moved out of the way. This time he hits it. The commentary kind of played it like Cody got his knees up, and they showed a bunch of different replays, and they were just kind of waffling back and forth whether he did or did not. I don't think it really mattered either way. I don't think Cody wasn't looking to get his knees up, so it's just how it worked out. Cody hits a crossroads. Allin kicks out. Cody runs then into the exposed turnbuckle. Allin then goes for the coffin drop, and Arn Anderson kind of jumps up onto the ring apron. Cody's sort of looking his way instead of looking where Darby is. Arn Anderson's pointing to his knee, yelling, "Get your knees up, get your knees up." Cody kind of rolls back onto his back a little bit, puts his knees up. Allin lands on him doing the coffin drop, and then Cody rolls him up for the pin. So very similar to finish to the first match Cody had on Dynamite, which was with Sammy Guevara, where Sammy missed what I believe was a shooting star press, and Cody capitalized on that error and turned it into a pin immediately after. So it was very similar here. There was another point in the match that Arn Anderson, called Cody over to give him some advice, and he put a piece of paper that he was holding up in front of his mouth, so you couldn't read lips or anything, like a lot of football coaches, or really all types of coaches do now. They're always covering their mouth so the cameras can't pick it up, and you can't read their lips. So that kind of has worked out. So Cody and Darby had an original 20-minute draw in their first match, and here Cody is picking up the win. I'm curious to see how they play out with Darby Allin, since he's lost quite a few high-profile matches at this point, and he's kind of booked 50-50 here. Not specifically against Cody, because Cody now has a draw and a win over Darby Allin, but Allen's going to be a huge star no matter what, and I think he's kind of, right now at least, he's kind of that Daniel Bryan character where he's undersized, but the fans really love him no matter how much he gets beaten down, and he does a lot of really cool moves and stuff like that. So I think Allen's going to have a decent amount of goodwill from the fans, and they probably aren't going to turn on him as far as that goes, though. Depending on how much punishment Allin ends up taking, is he going to turn into such a huge babyface that no matter who goes up against him, that they're going to get booed? That is definitely a possibility, and I don't know what you want to call this. Anyways, a possibility that could happen. So we'll see how it goes. Cody picks up a win here. So the first member of the Elite to have a match tonight picks up a win. It was really nice to see. We had a nice quick video package recapping why this match was happening. And it would have been really nice if we had a quick recap video of why this match was happening and what happened in the previous match. That was not addressed at all in a video package, and the match just started with really little hype going into the match, at least on this episode. And it's been 2 weeks since there's been a Dynamite episode, so we have that. So if you've been paying attention, but if you just turned in, you have no idea why this match is happening. This is something that is starting to really bug me about AEW, is they're not using the footage that they have to hype the stuff that's coming up in the future. They have the footage, obviously, of the match of Allin and Cody, so why not just throw together a quick 30-second video package of what happened in that match and what's happened over the past few weeks, where Darby came down and he helped Cody up, and then he helped him beat Butcher and Blade. I don't know why they couldn't just throw together 30 seconds to put that together and be like, oh, this is why the match is happening. It's just like they expect everybody to remember everything or see everything, and that is going to be very problematic if they don't get their hands wrapped around this one. I mean, it's like little things, a little 30-second package here, a little 30-second package here could work wonders on how these shows flow and make them more watchable, especially for new people coming in. So that was one thing with AEW going up against zero competition pretty much zero competition of NXT, because NXT was just showing matches from takeovers that already happened, so people might have already seen them. And you look at the ratings, NXT had just over 500,000, maybe it was 550, somewhere around that, which is a lot lower, and AEW had close to 1 million viewers. So you had a lot of people coming over who had already seen the matches from NXT, who were trying out AEW, maybe even for the first time, and you give them nothing for why this match is happening. You couldn't throw together a little video package, and I think that's a huge downfall for what is happening over on AEW Dynamite, trying to hook new viewers, because they do not make it easy to come into it in the middle of the run or whatever. So people haven't been watching it from the beginning, and if people want to tune in now, they're going to be very confused about what's going on if they're not going to get any of this little backstory simple little recaps to push the story forward. So next up, we had SCU had a interview with Jen Decker. Sammy Guevara interrupts, where he's saying that Christopher Daniels doesn't have a championship compared to the other two guys, and he just doesn't have it anymore. Daniels challenges Sammy to a match for next week. And then when he's leaving, Daniels licks his thumb and wipes it on Sammy's phone, because of course Sammy is vlogging, and Sammy's all mad. He's like, "Oh man, I just got this for Christmas," and then he goes to try to wipe it on Jen Decker's dress because this is the closest thing he could wipe it on, and she pulled away, and he's like, "Oh man," and he wiped it with his own shirt or whatever. That was really it for that. And then we had a women's AEW championship match, AEW women's championship match. And this was supposed to be Riho and Chris Statlander, but Chris Statlander had a booking elsewhere. I believe it was with Bar Wrestling. And somebody just screwed up and didn't realize that she had a booking already for this date. And I don't know whose fault it was. It doesn't really matter, but I think the biggest thing is that AEW took the high road and said, well, she's already been promised elsewhere, so we will let her honor her commitment, and we'll take the hit for it because we messed up or somebody messed up. Doesn't really matter who, but they didn't strong arm themselves. They didn't pull the, well, we outrank you type of deal, and we're bigger than you, so you can't have her type of deal. So this match is going to end up taking place next week, which I guess is actually tomorrow at this point. And Statlander is going to face whoever the winner of this match was. And this is Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida versus Britt Baker versus Riho. So this lineup really bugs me because Nyla Rose was suspended for the rest of the year last year. So she's suspended for the last few weeks of the year. And then she's gifted a championship match on the first night of the year after being suspended. I'm not sure how that works. Britt Baker had just lost to Chris Statlander I know she at least lost to her, and I believe Statlander beat Hikaru Shida last. So I don't know why any of these three are in this match, but it is what it is. But they had promised an AEW Women's Championship match. It just makes no sense that these are the three challengers that you put into this match, and I don't know why they couldn't just have found somebody to have one. I don't know. It just doesn't work out, and I think it's just a little sloppy, but I think they just needed to throw something together. Rose attacks before the bell. Rose pulls out but Shida ends up kind of working her over a little bit and then asks for the bell to be rung. Rose pulls out a table on the outside and sets it up. Nyla power bombs Riho onto Britt Baker at one point. Shida backdrops Nyla Rose. So I mean, Shida has a lot of power in that small frame of hers. She is way stronger than what she appears. Rose hits a knee from the top rope on Shida, who's hung up in the ropes, and then Nyla puts Shida through the table on the outside with a senton. Riho hits a couple of stomps on Nyla Rose. Britt Baker breaks up the pin. Shida's on the outside. Shida does an outside-in suplex on Baker, so she lifts her up from the apron over the top rope into the ring. And then she also suplex Riho into a downed Nyla Rose, who is sitting kind of in the corner, so she suplexes Riho into her. Shida hits a Falcon Arrow on Nyla Rose. Like I said, Shida is strong. And then where are we? Britt attempts the lockjaw on Shida, but then Shida rolls it into a pin attempt. This is going to be important. And then Riho comes in and rolls Britt Baker into a bridging pin, and she retains the title. So Riho has won the match. She retains her title. She will be facing Chris Statlander next week for the championship. So I'm curious how that goes. I don't know if they will just put it right onto Statlander. Statlander only has a couple matches in AEW, and obviously she has a very unique gimmick that we haven't had too much exposure to and can be very strange and off-putting to some. It's been kind of divisive, I guess you could say, her kind of alien gimmick, if you will. After the match, Rose attacks Riho, sets up a table in the ring, and does a splash through Riho on the table. And then, like I said, Statlander and Riho next week. We go to a backstage interview with Joey Janela. He's just getting into his first sentence, and then he is low blowed from behind by Penelope Ford, his ex-girlfriend. They have not mentioned that. And then her and Kip Sabian just walk away. So they have not explained what this whole thing is between Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, and Joey Janela. So unless you know, you wouldn't know by watching the show, because Sabian cut a promo on Janela, I believe, at Full Gear, and then here Penelope is punching Joey Janela in the nuts. So I'm not sure what they're doing. Like, if you don't know that Penelope Ford and Joey Janela used to date in real life, I don't know if that's part of the story. I assume it is, but they have not made actual mention of that on Dynamite, so you wouldn't know. Next up, we have a very short Dark Order video. Uno is there just saying that the Elite has fallen. It recaps a little bit of the attacks from the previous episode back in December. Talks about the Dark Order showing its true reach, and he addresses the Exalted One. So it looks like there may be an actual leader that I think I have speculated on previous episodes, that Uno is not the ultimate leader and that there's somebody else who's actually pulling the strings. Who's that going to be? I am not sure. A lot of people are saying it's going to be Marty Scurll. I don't really see that happening. It's kind of a weird thing for him, and I don't think he needs to be the leader of this particular faction, but I wouldn't put them past it. But if Marty Scurll is, that would definitely be helpful. I have heard even the far-fetched idea that it's actually Kenny Omega. I don't know. We'll see. But that could throw a huge wrinkle into the whole landscape of AEW if that turned out to be the case. Other speculations, you have much wilder speculations of it being Tony Khan, similar to how Vince McMahon was the higher power of the whole ministry thing. So I'm pretty sure that one's a bit more far-fetched, and that one is not going to be the case, because that would be really stupid if it was. And I'm pretty sure Tony Khan knows all about how crappy that angle was. So I'm pretty sure he's going to stay out of it, hopefully. Next up, we had Jon Moxley versus Trent, with Orange Cassidy and Chuckie T coming out. Pretty basic match to begin with. They go back and forth a bit, and Mox pretty much takes over for a while. Trent builds some momentum after a half-and-half suplex and then a dive onto Moxley on the outside. Trent hits this huge swinging DDT. At one point, Orange Cassidy gets into the ring, puts his hands in his pockets, like he's going to do something. The ref is walking, kind of shouting at Cassidy, get out, but Mox waves the ref off, says basically let it be, and then Moxley mockingly puts his hands in his pockets as well, yelling at Orange Cassidy, but this ends up causing enough of a distraction, so Trent ends up hitting a knee strike when Moxley turns around, but it didn't really help that much. He ends up getting a paradigm shift out on the ramp, and then a massive paradigm shift. This one looked pretty brutal. I think Trent jumped a little higher than he was supposed to, and he kind of went like he was going to go for, like he was being suplexed instead of being DDT'd. He was spiked like right down, straight up and down. It was not pretty. It looked pretty, looked like it was not fun at all. Moxley picks up the win after that. Then Sammy Guevara comes out with a mic saying that they have a big surprise for him. Jericho then appears up on the screen. Jericho says that he's impressed with Moxley, with what he's been doing, that he's the best wrestler out there, bar none. And then he says that he wants Moxley to join the Inner Circle, to lead the Inner Circle with him, and that he offers him 49% of Inner Circle LLC. I'm curious if that actually exists. It probably does not. He says he can be the executive vice president, which is pretty laughable because of how many executive vice presidents are in AEW. And then he offers him a Ford GT, which, if you don't know, is like $1 million supercar from Ford. It's not the Ford Mustang GT. It's the Ford GT. It is a very expensive car. Come to find out, it was actually Shad Khan's car. So he owns that car. So they have plenty of money for those who think that AEW is going to go under because they're going to run out of money or something like that. And from what I've heard, Shad Khan is actually really happy with what's going on with AEW. He's happy with he's happy with the product. He's just happy that the business is doing pretty well. And so now not only do you have Tony Khan behind it, but it looks like his dad, it seems to be growing on his dad as well, if he hadn't already been vested in AEW succeeding, and it sounds like he's pretty happy with it. They let him borrow his $1 million car, so and then Moxley says that he's always considered Chris a friend and a mentor, and out of respect, Moxley says he will give Jericho's answer face-to-face next week on Dynamite. This sounded like a complete plug. It sounded like words that Moxley would never say, and it gets just a bunch of boos because they're putting it off till next week. This is one of the things, I don't know why they did it this way. What they should have done is they should have had Jericho, who is on the screen, and he is filmed pre-taped, I'm 90% sure, because Jericho is already flying to Japan for Wrestle Kingdom, even though Moxley had a match the day before Jericho's match at Wrestle Kingdom, because Moxley had a match on the 4th and the 5th, and Jericho's match was only on the 5th. So I don't know why Jericho wasn't physically in Florida for the show and why he had to leave early to go to Japan. I'm not sure if there was some interviews or some other media that he had to do for New Japan. I'm guessing that was probably the case, and that's why he had to leave early. Anyways, it was a pre-tape, and what they should have done, they should have had Jericho say, nope, wait, don't give me your answer right now. Wait and do it. We're going to do this face-to-face next week. You got to have the heel push it to next week because people wanted to see this. Don't have the babyface be the one to disappoint the fans on pushing this out another week. It should have been Jericho who said, don't give me your answer tonight. I will be there face to face with you next week. You can give me your answer then. So it isn't Moxley being the one to deliver that bummer news to the audience who's expecting something to happen tonight, because it was announced to be happening that he would give his answer on the 1st, which was this show. And it didn't happen. So they need to go. It needs to be the heel to deliver that news, not the babyface. That's just something that I think was a bit of a misstep on their part for that one. Next up, we had Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. So Sammy had actually stayed out. He did a bunch of cue card things during the commercial break, which are pretty funny. He wanted somebody's sister to give him a call. I don't remember who it was. But anyways, there were some pretty funny cue cards that he did through the commercial break. So we had Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes. Dustin comes through the crowd from behind Sammy. Sammy's facing the ramp, and he's like, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, and he gets blindsided from Dustin behind. Obviously, Dustin is on a mission to destroy the Inner Circle as much as possible because of them breaking his arm way back, probably 6 weeks or so at this point. So he wants to destroy Sammy and Jake and really all of them, all 5 of the members of the Inner Circle. So he comes out, he beats the crap out of Sammy for a bit. He hits the huge cannonball senton off the apron onto the floor on Sammy. He did that during the match he was in with the Bucks. I believe it was the show on the 18th, maybe the week before that. And then Jake Hager comes down to ringside. Dustin gives Sammy a power slam on the floor. Sammy distracts the ref, and Hager attacks Dustin on the outside. At one point, Dustin grabs a chair to smash Sammy's arm, but the ref ends up stopping it. And then Sammy does a springboard moonsault to the floor, which was pretty awesome. So he's standing on the apron, back to Dustin, who is on the floor, and he just jumps up from there, springboards off the top rope backwards, doing a moonsault onto Dustin. It was very impressive. Later on, Dustin hits a Canadian destroyer on the apron. So yes, this old dog can learn new tricks. He has now he's doing that cannonball senton off the apron to the floor, and now he's doing the Canadian destroyer, which he's done a couple times in AEW. He sets up to do the unnatural kick. Used to be called Shattered Dreams, but I'm guessing WWE would be unhappy with that, so they are calling it the unnatural kick in AEW. The ref stops him. Sammy is tied up in the ropes, and he grabs the ref, holding on to the ref to keep him occupied. Jake Hager runs in, kicks Dustin right in the nuts. Sammy gets out of the corner and pins Dustin. So that is how that match ends. Sammy plays a great role in the Inner Circle because, he's not going to win a ton of matches, but he's one of those guys that he can lose and lose and lose constantly. And he is just so damn annoying that you are always going to be rooting against him to get beat up, and you're always going to be happy to see him get beat up because he is just so annoying. So he is just the perfect kind of foil for that position in the Inner Circle. I mean, you always have to have this type of character that can constantly eat the pins, but has so much charisma and talent to either, keep the crowd on his side or against him, that it really helps a faction when you have somebody like that. Chaos always had Gato, or now Bullet Club has Gato over in New Japan. Gato pretty much always eats the pin, but since he's kind of like one of the sub leaders, and obviously he is the booker, but he's like the sub leader of the Bullet Club used to be, and he used to be the sub leader of Chaos. He was so damn annoying that you had no problem watching him get beat up and pinned. It really didn't lose anything. He was going to eat the pin because a lot of times they're not going to want to let their big stars. Okada's not going to eat the pin when he's tagging with Gato. So that's just kind of how it works out. And having somebody like Sammy in the Inner Circle to eat all these pins, but he's so damn annoying that you have no problem watching him get beat up every time, that you're happy to see it happen. It's just a perfect role for him, and it's just a perfect element to have as part of the Inner Circle. So good to see that. Next, it goes back to Jen Decker. She is with Private Party at the bar. I'm guessing there is some sort of lounge at this particular theater that they're at. They're at the amphitheater that they were at for Fight for the Fallen, which is actually attached to the Jaguars Stadium. So I'm assuming it does have a fancy bar somewhere, just because who knows who plays there. I'm guessing a lot of concerts happen there, and a lot of high-end performances happen there, because it's a pretty large venue for that type of thing. So they're in a bar. and they're quickly talking to Jen. They don't really say anything of much substance. Hangman Page comes in. He goes behind the bar, pours himself a drink. One of the guys from Private Party swipes the glass out from under what he's pouring, and they spill some onto the countertop. And they say, they're worried about him. They're worried about his drinking, and they're asking him if he's already drunk. And he kind of blows them off, and he takes his drink with him and leaves. Next up, MJF comes out. He's going to be announcing what his stipulations are. During the commercial, for those who didn't see it, it was hilarious. He was working the crowd. He was, trying to get people to kiss his ring. He actually got a few kisses from the ladies. One lady kissed him right on the lips. A couple also kissed him on the cheek. There's one guy kissed the ring, and right before they came back from commercial break, he gets a nice good old asshole chant. So that was fun to see. He says that Cody needs him. He needs this match to happen, and then he goes into the stipulations that he needs. Basically, the first one is he can't touch him before Revolution. Cody can't touch MJF, that is. He has to have a match and win against Wardlow in a steel cage, and that MJF gets to whip him 10 times with a belt on live television. Why can MJF dictate terms? This makes absolutely no sense. He has no authority. He doesn't work for AEW. He works for them. It just really makes no sense why he has so much leverage. Why would he be able to dictate these terms? I mean, Cody, he's an executive vice president in AEW. He can set all the terms that he wants. MJF is nothing as far as the company is concerned. So why can MJF dictate these terms? AEW can make whatever match they want. So I don't know why they couldn't just go, well, here you go, MJF, you are facing Cody. So this really is outside of what is actually believable. And I just kind of hate how MJF is the one dictating these terms. It just really makes no sense because he has no say in what matches he has to be in. That's AEW's job. AEW can make whatever the match they want. Put MJF in that match, and they can put on stipulations. Well, if you refuse this match, then you're fired. Or if you refuse this match, then XYZ. Something like that. It really makes no sense why MJF has any power here at all. Zero. All right, so next up, there was a quick Jungle Boy promo. Again, Jen Decker backstage. And Jungle Boy says, he did what he said he was going to do. He lasted 10 minutes with Chris Jericho. And now, now in the new year, he's looking for a win. Marco Stunt is being a little creepy in this interview. He's just like ogling Jen Decker, and then he's trying to move towards her to hug her or something like that, and Luchasaurus holds him back and pulls him away. And then Luchasaurus says something, but they screwed up the audio and started playing filler music. So unfortunately, you could not hear what he said. I believe one of the things he said was life finds a way, but the rest of what he said, I am not sure what happened, because I couldn't understand what he was saying because they ended up playing the bumper music over top of what he was saying. So there's that. But Marco Stunt being this little creeper trying to get with, Jen Decker, trying to touch her, was just a little over the top. So I don't know why he's being a little creepy pervert right now. Commentary announces next week it will be Legends of Memphis Wrestling for the show when they're in the Tennessee. Well, I guess they're outside of Knoxville or Nashville. I don't know which one. Just over the Mississippi border. I should probably look that up. But anyways, they're going to be actually in Mississippi, just over the Mississippi border. So they are going to be doing Legends of Memphis Wrestling. So that should be interesting. They also announced Statlander versus Riho for the championship. And then Alex Marvez is backstage with Riho, and he's asking a question. Michael Nakazawa is there to interpret for her. So before I get on to this, Michael Nakazawa wasn't he abducted by Pac? What the hell happened? Like, they didn't... He's just here now translating for Riho. They never mentioned what happened to Michael Nakazawa. I have not watched the last couple being the Elites, so if it's on there, they didn't mention anything on Dynamite, and that angle happened on Dynamite. So if it's anywhere else, it should be on Dynamite. If it wasn't anywhere else either, what the hell happened? Michael Nakazawa is here translating. He got abducted by Pac 2 weeks ago. We have no idea what happened. Zero. So this is a storyline that they did not follow up on. It doesn't sound like they're going to follow up on him because he was perfectly fine here to translate for Riho. Anyways, Britt Baker ends up interrupting, and she's saying that, you know, she's been here every week and saying Riho is never there, and that Britt Baker, she's been there and she's been in all these matches, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting really sick of Britt Baker at this point. I'm guessing she's going heel because this is just a lot of whiny. She says that, you know, Riho stole the pin. It's like, well, she pinned you. So I don't know how it's a stolen pin when Britt Baker's complaining about it and Britt Baker was the one Riho pinned. And Britt Baker had lockjaw, or was trying to get lockjaw on Shida, and Hikaru Shida rolled Britt Baker into a pinning combination. So, one, Riho didn't break up Britt Baker's submission hold because Shida rolled it into a pin, and Riho broke up that. And then Riho pinned Britt Baker. So Britt Baker, I assume, is going heel because she basically is lying with this particular statement. That, you know, that Riho stole the pin because, well, she pinned you, so she didn't steal a pin from you. Also, one of these things that has come up so many times, and I see it in like in the groups online and whatnot, saying that Riho is never there. But it's like, Riho has had like 10 matches in AEW. They've only had 12 weeks of TV, and then they've had, like, you know, the 4 kind of special shows on pay-per-view. So she's she's had 10 matches. There are plenty of the men's division that have not had 10 matches. You know, Kenny Omega, I think, was at, 11 matches or something like that. So people saying that Riho is never around or anything like that. She has more matches than Moxley, and nobody's complaining about Moxley not being there all the time. So it really makes no sense. Riho has been there, and she's had, more matches than anybody else in the women's division, I think, other than Britt Baker. So yeah. So people saying that Riho is never there, it's just a bunch of bull, because she is either on Dynamite or on Dark most weeks. And so, the vast majority, she's been on like a bunch of the pay-per-views, and she's been either on Dynamite or Dark. And there's been plenty of times where she wasn't wrestling, but she was there. Like, she was in the audience watching a number 1 contenders match. So it's not like she's not showing up, and it's not like she's not wrestling when she's had like 10 matches. So that's just bunk right there. So I don't want to hear that anymore. They also announced next week is Cody and Dustin versus the Lucha Bros. So that's going to be a crazy match. And then Private Party versus Omega and Hangman Adam Page. Hangman Page actually came out for commentary right before this. So Page is on commentary, and he's like, "Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that." So playing into the story of him kind of being separated from the Elite, and kind of, the distance growing between them. He didn't even know that he was scheduled to have a match when he was teaming with Kenny Omega next week. So he's there. So Hangman was on commentary, but he really didn't say a whole lot. At one point, there was some line that JR threw out there. He's like, I love watching these guys. These guys are the best to watch. And then Hangman's like, "Thanks, Jim," or "Thanks, JR," something like that. Just kind of being like, what, you don't like watching when I'm wrestling? Something like that. So next up was the last match of the evening, which was Lucha Bros and Pac versus Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. So we had the Elite versus Lucha Bros and Pac. I mean, how could I even keep up with this match? So I wrote down some stuff, but you look at the 6 people in this, these are some of the fastest workers on the planet. So this is one of the fastest matches I've seen. It was about 15 minutes. I think it went about 12 minutes because I'm trying to think. There was 15 minutes left. Yeah. So 12, 13 minutes. Really fast match. Nick and Phoenix had a really good double knockdown spot where they traded strikes, and they double kicked each other. They double head kicked each other and fell down, and they both did kip ups at the same time. Omega at one point does a "you can't escape." He drops Penta, and Phoenix was hung up in the corner. He gives Phoenix a backstabber instead of doing the moonsault that he would normally do. Nick does a double stomp on Phoenix while Phoenix is still draped across Omega's legs. And then Matt does a elbow drop off the top rope onto Penta, who was out in the middle of the ring. Nick does a great hot tag. He does a destroyer on Pac, and then Matt and Nick do stereo destroyers on Pentagon and Phoenix. Pac and Omega are legal at this point. Kenny is offering Pac a free shot. They exchange a bunch of strikes. Pac hits the snap German that he likes to do when he throws somebody into the ropes. They come back, and he does a snap German suplex. Omega then hits a running knee to the back of Pac's head, does a snapdragon suplex. Penta breaks up the pin there. He ends up giving everybody a sling blade, and then here is where, again, Lucha Bros drive me up a frickin' wall because Pentagon is in there, but he never tagged in. So he's never tagged in, and then he tags in Phoenix. So Pentagon was never the legal man, so I don't know why he's tagging in Phoenix, because Pac was clearly the legal man at that point. There was definitely no tag. So that's just one thing. The Lucha Bros drive me up a frickin' wall is when they screw up tags so bad like this. Anyways, Phoenix is in there, and he is now declared the legal man, I guess. He hits a double cutter. Omega hits a snapdragon, just like the match that they had back in December, where Omega did the snapdragon, and then like Phoenix does like a hope spot roll into a cutter, but he ended up doing a cutter to nobody. Well, in this case, he did the snapdragon, and Phoenix did the roll through cutter, and he actually hit it this time. So so this time it was on Kenny. Pac reaches over the ropes, tabs himself in from Phoenix. Pac gets the brutalizer on Omega, but Matt ends up breaking that up with a kick to the back of the head. They do a super kick party on Pentagon on the outside. Phoenix goes to the top rope for this spinning roundhouse kick off the top rope. Omega kicks him right out of midair, throws him up for the one-winged angel, and picks up the win. So we now have the Elite, Cody, Matt and Nick Jackson, and Kenny Omega all winning their matches tonight. So the Elite have won. Cody comes down to celebrate with the rest of them. They're waving towards Hangman, who is on commentary, to come down to the ring and celebrate with them. And he's like, nah, I'm good. And he just has his drink in hand and just kind of waving him off. They're like, oh, all right. They get up, they celebrate. And that is the end of the show. So all in all, excellent way to start off the new year. Again, you have my complaints already. Lack of setup for the matches with no video packages. They didn't have it before Cody, Darby, Allin. They didn't have a video package before the women's four-way, which would be nice to have at least something to call out that, hey, Chris Statlander got double booked, so she had to go do this other gig, and she'll have her match next week. They did say it, but there was like no video package or anything like that, even explaining why these other 3 women are in there with her to begin with. It is what it is. And then again, for like 9th out of the 12 weeks, no mention of AEW Dark at all. Come on, guys. AEW Dark, it happens every Tuesday. You know what matches are going to happen. You know what matches did happen. You are developing stories on there constantly, but you don't recap the story that happened on AEW Dark, and you don't even mention it on Dynamite. This is getting so annoying that they are not even promoting their show. It is not a highlight show for those who haven't watched it. It's not like a huge recap show. They do recaps, which those recaps should be on Dynamite as well. But on Dark, they have brand new matches. The matches matter towards the records of the competitors, and they have some pretty good matches. Young Bucks have been on Dark quite a lot. Omega's on Dark quite a lot. He had a crazy unsanctioned match with Joey Janela the second week, and it was awesome. And people need to be watching this, but they are trying to do all this stuff through social media, and their social media following is not as big as the viewing on Dynamite. Dynamite is where most of your eyeballs are, and you need to be promoting all this stuff. And if you're going to be developing storylines on Being the Elite, on AEW Dark, on the Nightmare Family, or whatever their show is called for Cody that they do once in a while, they need to be promoting this stuff or pulling the clips forward from, if it happens on Dark, they do a recap package on Dynamite. If it happens on Being the Elite, they show the video, the relevant parts of the video on Dynamite. It makes no sense that they are definitely moving storylines on these, and Cody is saying that's just shoulder content. You shouldn't have to watch that. You can just watch Dynamite. That is a bold-faced lie. There is no truth to that at all. You have to watch all of the other content to get some of these storylines, and that's a huge problem, because if that's the case, they need to be, if it's going to continue to be the case, it has to be promoted on Dark. If you don't want that quote-unquote shoulder content to push storylines forward, then stop using the storylines from Being the Elite or from Dark and on Dynamite. So there is no reason that you shouldn't be promoting this stuff if you're going to do it, especially Dark. Dark is definitely canon because they are using that for records. I mean, Chris Statlander, the whole reason she had the number one contenders match back on the 18th was because of a win on AEW Dark over the number one contender, which I believe was Shida at the time, or I believe that was the case. But it was definitely a match on AEW Dark that set up Statlander to get that number one contenders match. So you need to be mentioning it. I feel like I'm a broken record every week that I have to talk about. They didn't mention AEW Dark. Like I write this down every week, and of the 12 or so weeks, it's been mentioned 3 or 4 times, and I'm not even exaggerating on how low that is. That is actually the number, is 3 or 4 times at most. And one 30-second AEW Dark video package, like advertisement. That's it. Once. It only happened once. That is just unacceptable, and there's no reason when they are going over, hey, these are the matches for next week, they can take 15 seconds to say, hey, also on Tuesday, watch AEW Dark on YouTube because this match, and this match are happening. There is absolutely no reason they can't do that, to take the 15 seconds out of there and talk about it. Or have a 30-second promo package for AEW Dark somewhere in Dynamite. It is not that hard. And they're making it way more difficult than it needs to be for people to find this content. All right, that's enough for me tonight. All in all, I like the show, even though my rambling right there seems like I'm hating on AEW. I don't. I just hold them to a very high standard comparatively to WWE and the rest of them. I just want to see them do things in a positive manner, and this is just one of those things that really bugs me. Like I said, I'm just holding them to a very high standard, and I'd like to see high quality coming out of them. That's all. All right, so thanks for watching or listening, everybody. If you're watching this on YouTube, it is a podcast. You can pick it up over at that'swrestling.com or all your favorite podcast apps. If you can't find it on your own particular podcast app, shoot me an email so I know which podcast app I need to get it submitted to. You can send that Eric at that'swrestling.com. Also, if you're interested in being a co-host for this show, either in regards to AEW or New Japan or both, or just fill in when somebody can't make it, if I do get a regular, shoot me an email, Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, that's wrestling1, the number 1. And other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, because I do these live, and you can check them out and ask questions. Oh, also, actually, let me get into this. I actually had one. I don't know why I didn't do that. I'll get to it next week. I had a mailbag question, but it can wait till next week because I don't think anything's going to change. So, thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time on That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.